Okay, so welcome to week 3 of the Healing of the Dream. We're going through chapter 27 of A Course in Miracles. And firstly, a really big warm hug to everyone that's joined. You know, this love of God that becomes you, it is just very tender and very loving and very gentle and open. So that's really, we become that love, and we don't have to try to be loving. We are love. We can't do anything but be loving, because that's who we are. So when we've undone all the blocks to just allow this very beautiful and natural love flow through us, we're what we call giving miracles. But isn't it funny that we have to call God's natural love just this tender and beautiful love? Isn't it funny that we have to say it's a miracle? It's just silly, isn't it? Because it's the most natural, simple way of being. Our most natural way of being is to completely love everyone fully. Just this love that just expands and envelops and just kisses and hugs and blesses. And so you become like a little child, because your little children tend to love completely. They don't have the boundaries. Now, when I say that, of course, we know that in this lifetime we don't come in as a child unless we have guilt in our mind and we haven't undone all the guilt. So I'm not saying all children are like that, but when we have these teachings that you will become like little children, this is what he means. You're going to become childlike, because you're going to become very playful, because all the blocks that you have to extending all that love out to everyone in every moment falls away. The blocks leave. And how we undo all those blocks is we have Jesus and the Holy Spirit in A Course in Miracles to help us. And also his helpers like myself, and anyone that is practicing forgiveness is a teacher of God. Any moment you actually get into your right mind and practice forgiveness, he says you're a teacher of God. So you don't have to be, have undone the whole world and let go of it all like he's asking us to do. So if anyone has joined today from the little presentation I did on pure presence on your Friday night, my Saturday morning, welcome. It's lovely to have you join. If you're not familiar with me and my teachings or whatever, I welcome you. It's really nice to be with you. I've been told that a lot of people like me because I'm very down to earth and I make it very practical. I share about my journey. I share very openly about all the hatred I had for everyone, right? Because that's the ego, and the ego hates everyone and hates you, but we're not that, but we feel we are. So we're in hatred and we're pretending. We're trying to pretend, look how good and innocent I am, but I actually really hate you, and we're trying to disguise it. But it's not us. It's a thought system of hatred, murderous hatred actually. And we have to look at it to see and laugh at it to see its falseness. So I'd like to share a little bit about the passing of my dad on Easter Sunday. So all I can feel is joy and happiness and gratitude towards the character that played my dad, right? And it's not to diminish him when I say he was the character that played my dad. All the characters here play their part, right? They're all playing a part. They're all just saying, hey, I'm here forgetting my true self, and I'm going to pretend to be something I'm not. And it's going to be really hard, because my true self is really trying to break through, but I'm going to forget about my true self, and I'm going to come here and play the character that is selfish, self-centered, greedy, projecting, mean-spirited, and we're all going to play that. So not only did my dad's character play that part, we're all playing that part. We're all the same. And no one's better or worse. We're all either listening to the ego 10 out of 10 or maybe 1 out of 10, depending how far you are with being able to see the ego and choose against it, and have the Holy Spirit and Jesus help us see the ego differently, look upon it differently. So the story about the character that played my dad, with a lot of people here, they would know that he was my biggest forgiveness lesson. My ego, the ego in my mind, projected onto my dad more than any other character. It literally was full of hatred. And I think I've shared many times before, as I came to sort of the Course in Miracles teachings, I started to have an awareness that the ego would really go into hatred towards him. And then within a few days, it would be going, no, you're terrible, you're guilty, you need to kill yourself. You know, no one loves you, you're this, you're that. And then within a few days saying, no, he's to blame for everything going wrong in your life. He's the one. And over the last 2 weeks, we've been talking about how Jesus says we hold our sick and crucified body in front of our brother and says, at your hand I die. And Jesus showed me that I was doing that. I'm laughing now, but I wasn't laughing at the time, because it was very, very slowly brought into my awareness that time I went into the psych ward, suicidal, that part of me was part of my mind, the ego ramping up in my mind, was to say, now he'll feel really guilty at all the stuff he's done. Now he's going to feel really guilty, and he is guilty, because look at your poor and suffering, sick self. And this is what we do. And we're caught up in it. We have no idea that we're caught in an egoic mind that is overwhelming us. It's like it calls it a veil, but it's like a blackness within us. And so very slowly and gently, the Holy Spirit and Jesus helped me look at every part of my relationship with my dad and healed it. And there's a quote in the Course that says something like this: the holiest spot on earth is where an ancient hatred becomes a present love. And that is the meaning of what happened with my dad and I. I came into a present love with him, present in every moment, with this beautiful, holy love that didn't matter. Now, he was still in his ego, but he softened over the years of so it was 9 years ago now that I just made the decision. I wanted a healed relationship. I wanted a harmonious relationship with my dad. So I just said to the Holy Spirit, please go to work to correct every perception I have with my dad, because I knew with the Course, it was about me changing, not him. I stopped trying to get him to change, and I changed my mind with the help. I couldn't do it on my own. So I really invited the Holy Spirit and Jesus in. I said, I want the peace of God, and I want to use this relationship to get there. So it wasn't easy. the ego would arc up all the time and basically say, no, he's guilty. Did you see what he just did then? And the ego really wants to find the ego in another. But in the end, you see, there is no ego in the other. There's so many tricks with the ego, but no matter how much of a trickster the ego is, the Holy Spirit and Jesus are always above it. There's nothing the ego can do or say or convince you of that Jesus and the Holy Spirit can't show you how to see it differently. It doesn't matter. And even if you've been in a fixed point of view about somebody for 50 years, he can change it in an instant to bring you back to peace. So my plan around my dad was that I wanted to be with him when he passed away. And I kept asking Jesus and saying, can you give me any sort of seeing of what's going to happen? And nothing would come in. And he just said, you just have to trust as you're going through this. So my mum had come down to stay with us. My sister Donna lives a few streets away from where I live. And my mum was staying with her for the week prior to Dad passing. And I had said that I would take my mum back home on Saturday morning. And so she lives 2 hours away in the country. So I took her home Saturday morning, and I was meant to be coming home Sunday evening. And my sister and I are very close, and she was messaging me on Saturday saying that Dad was calling her, asking her to come in. Now, he was in a care home, and he was going through what we call voluntary assisted dying process, which is where he really wanted to die. I know that he had a lot of guilt, and I was sitting with him the 3 weeks that he was in the care home prior to his passing. I went probably about every second day, and I would just talk with him and sit with him and just tell him in my mind how beautiful, how holy, how lovely, how innocent, how guiltless he was. But I kept saying to Jesus, let me know if I should speak some words. And I really kept asking, let me know when you want me to speak. But as it turns out, there were no words he got me to say. And he said, there are no words in this. He wouldn't have been able to hear these words. He just wasn't in that state of mind. He really wanted to die. And every time we went in, he was just asking about how the assisted dying process was going and where we were at. And Donna and I were working with that. So this is a really good story, because sometimes you can think that if you're going to be awakened, you're never going to have to deal with anything in the dream, right? But it's not like that. What you do is Jesus has just said to me, my lifetime is not just about sitting in Course in Miracles groups teaching. It's about literally like him being out with everyone, being used, moving about, and just that's what he's guided me. So he had me in the hospital with my dad, not hospital, aged care home. So when I was at my mum's, Donna was messaging me and calling me on the Saturday. And then on the Sunday, Dad sent me a message very early, said, I can't get hold of Donna. And so I messaged Donna, and she tried to call him, and then she went in to see him. And he was really at that stage where he kept saying, where's the doctor for the assisted dying? I need to see him. And we knew that was a couple of weeks away, because they have a process here that you have to go through. And Donna at that time, so Jesus said to me, this is afterwards, he said, it was all perfectly orchestrated how this all went down. He said, you weren't meant to be there. No, because if you were there, it was Donna's place to take him through this. And he said, if I was there, I would have been a distraction, and she had to be totally focused on him. So she went there and she said, Dad, you need to decide this for yourself. You need to choose this. You're the boss. And she said, you just let go, Dad. Just let go. Just leave. And because he was at that time, I don't know whether I've shared, he's had spinal cancer. He was full of cancer, and he'd been in the bed for 3 weeks, unable to get out. He had his mind. He was clear. 2 days before he left, I was with him, with my other sister, Jan, and he was talking politics with her. And he just said, I'm ready to go. So in that moment, my sister just sort of put her hand on his forehead and said, just leave, Dad. Just choose. Just go. And she just kept repeating how much we all loved him, how grateful we were to him, and just to go. And so when she got there, when it sort of the process started happening about 11:30, he passed about 20 past 1. So it was only an hour, just under 2 hours. He let go. And at that particular time, so when I didn't know that Dad was going to pass so quickly, we thought he had maybe a few days to a week. And I was at my mum's, and I was guided in the morning to go down to the local town where she lived and spend some time alone in the town. And I said to Mum, I'm going to be going into town around lunchtime, or maybe around 11 o'clock or so. And my brother Michael turned up, and he's the youngest brother, and he was caring for Dad for the last 6 weeks of his life. And Dad and him had a very tumultuous relationship, and their egos really fought. But my brother Michael was coming to really embrace love through his own spiritual process. And he literally was just giving all this love to Dad, and Dad's ego, there's a part in the course where he says, if you've judged somebody as unloving and then they show up as love, the ego really arcs up and it has to try to prove that the person's guilty. And so there was a whole lot of stuff going on. And of course, I don't see anything anymore about bodies and people and all that. I just see the ego trying to convince everyone that they're a body, that they're guilty. And my job is just to listen to guidance, to do and be his words and his feet, and his message. And you can't know what that's going to be at the time. You just have to follow in that moment what to say and what to do, because that's what's coming through you. So Michael had turned up at Mum's, and we were sitting there, and I was being really guided because my brother Michael had been projecting onto me over the last few weeks and sending me some messages, you did this, you did that, and I hadn't done anything. His ego was really getting the better of him, and we talked about this in our relationship when he was caring for Dad, about how the mind projects. He was really coming into it, and when he turned up that day, I just was loving him. I just hugged him, big hug. I said, I love you, my brother. You're beautiful. Thank you so much for caring for Dad. And we had a really lovely, we had sat outside at my mum's, and we had a cup of tea and coffee and talked. And I kept getting this prompt, go down to the town, go into town. And I saw this picture of this cafe that I like down in the little town where Mum lives. So even though my brother was there, I said to him, I'm leaving, I'm going to go into town. And so I pulled up and I went in and sat at the little cafe, and there was just one little seat outside left because it's quite a busy place. And I felt, yeah, sit there. And I ordered some lunch. And then as I was sitting there, I felt guided to message Shannon. And so I was texting her, and I was just saying, you know, my sister's in with my dad at the moment. He's not very well. Looks like it's going to be soon. And as I was messaging with her, I just felt this prompt to send her a photo of my dad just sleeping quietly. And Shannon messaged me back and said, he looks very peaceful. And as I read that message, something shifted. There was some reaction in me, and it was quite unusual. And I thought, wow, what was that? And it felt, I don't know. And I was like, why would I get such a reaction from just those words? He does look peaceful in that it was taken a few days ago of him lying in bed. And then 10 minutes later, my sister messaged me and said, Dad passed 10 minutes ago. And in that moment, tears just burst forward of just this gratitude, of this love, of this, just this, wow, we came together in this lifetime for forgiveness, Dad. We came together to let go of an ancient hate and to come into present love. And how gorgeous and beautiful is that? And I just sort of had weeping tears of joy that it feels like my journey with my dad in this lifetime of forgiveness and healing, it was completed. And then I was guided to leave the cafe and go and see my mum and my brother, and then get in the car and drive back to Melbourne. So I wasn't sure what that was all about. And so as I gave my mum and my brother big hugs, and my mum's, are you all right? You know, and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. So just feeling this love for my dad and his blessings for me. And then driving, I got in the car, and as I'm driving, so it's a 2-hour drive back to where I live. And I'm like, then I was guided to call my sister that had been with my dad when he passed. And when I called her, she told me, you know, all the way how she just loved him and blessed him and said, let go, Dad, you know, you've done what you came here to do. And anyway, I heard Jesus saying, you need to talk to your sister. You need to keep her on the line for the trip back. So I said to her, I want to stay on the line with you for the whole trip back if I can. And she said, yes. She said, I don't want to leave Dad. And she was in the room with his body. He was still in the bed, and she was sitting in the chair beside him. And so I just talked with her. We just stayed on the phone. We just talked. It was really lovely. And about 20 minutes before I got there, I said to her, look, I'm going to hang up now, and I'll see you in 20 minutes. So just after I hung up, I went through this section. There's an area that's just beautiful. It's just got these rolling hills. And anyway, I just said, you know, Dad, just show yourself, just shine your light. And at that time, we had a lot of big dark clouds in the sky. And when I've been through that part before, I've had the light like fully come in and shine on me. And I just said, just show me, give me a sign, wave goodbye to me. You know? And as I looked up, the clouds parted and the sun shone through, and it was a vague shape of a cross. And I said, oh, I love you, Dad. And it was Jesus. He said, no, it's me. And I just said, oh, thank you. Thank you. And he said, remember, there's no dad There's no dad. There's just, you're just doing this forgiving in a dream, and you're just blessing yourself, because the character and everything that you played out with your dad was really just you in a dream. You're using a projection to come to, but it's just one love, and all brothers are one brother. It's just one beautiful love. So when I got to the care home with my sister, she just walked out to reception and just hugged me and cried. And so we went back to the room where Dad was, and I kept saying to her, because she was talking to him, I kept saying, it's not him. It's not him. But I was saying it gently, and she's like, yeah, she needed me to guide her to let go, because she had been on alert. She was sort of like on a very big alert to be there for Dad. And my role then was to slowly help her let go of her role, because she hadn't left the room since he died, and she really hadn't eaten or drank much. And I could really feel Jesus saying to me, just help her let go, just gently tell her. So we just sort of, I let her speak, and I just kept saying, it's not him, it's not him. And anyway, then we, about 10 minutes after I got there, we just stood beside the body, and we just expressed gratitude. So I was just saying, you know, thank you, Dad, for everything. I didn't go right into it because I'd already done my gratitude to him. But Donna stood there and she just expressed all the gratitude. Because remember, Jesus says to appreciate your brother for all the loving things. So we did that appreciation. And then we went out to the little cafe in the care home, and we just had a chat, and I could really feel her dropping down and letting go and really relaxing and coming to peace. And then the undertakers come and take away, you know, it's not even us, right? And it's nothing, you know, it's a shell, it's not us. And so and then we came home. So I'm just thinking, was there anything else I wanted to share? Oh, that night when I got home, during the night, that Sunday night, I said to Jesus, I'd like to join with you and my dad together. Now, just to give you a bit of background, the character that played my dad wasn't very loving, overly loving, right? So he never ever told any of his children that he loved us. He never really hugged us. He didn't like any touch or anything like that very much. So the Sunday morning when my dad called my sister and asked her to come in to see him, he said the words, I love you very much. And she was joking. When she told me, she was joking. She goes, I knew straight away something was wrong. But I'm like, no, something is right. His mind was opening up to love, because so much love had been streamed into him by me and my sister and everybody else, all his children. And I mean, he had been really blocked off from love, but he was opened up to it. And I said to Donna, I said, that message is for all of us. And she goes, yeah, that's what I felt. He's telling me, but it's for all his kids. He opened up to this love. And so at night time, when I was getting into bed going to sleep, I said, I'd like to really hug my dad. I'd like to hug him. And so Jesus and my dad and I all stood in a little circle. And my dad hugged Jesus, and they just had the most beautiful hug. And then I hugged my dad, and he was sort of a younger man. It was like he was around maybe about 50 years old, and he was 85 when he died. And I just hugged him. And then I hugged Jesus, and we were like in this big hug fest, and the three of us had our arms around each other, and we were just hugging and hugging. It was really beautiful, and I could feel this sort of lifting up, this beautiful embrace, and it was just so gorgeous. And then obviously the next day I was talking to other family members about Dad and the funeral and little bits and pieces. So just so to give you a background, I've been caring for my dad because I've been close. He lives a few streets away from me for the last 2 years. I oversaw my brother caring for him. I got him into the care home. I was his contact when he was in hospital earlier this year. I've basically been overseeing everything. I've been in charge. I've got power of attorney. I'm doing all his finances. He's got rental properties that I've been working with and overseeing. So it's really important to know that you can be in this awakened state of mind and deal with everything that goes on. You don't have to shun or let go or turn away from anything. You can come and look like you're just like everybody else, but you're coming from a different state of mind. So so the next day I was, once again, everyone's messaging me because I'm the one that's now going to organise the funeral, go to the bank to let them know, start the ball rolling. And it's so good to be able to do this with a calm mind, because I think I shared that all my brothers and sisters have been fighting since over the last few weeks, and I've had to be like in the middle, really centered. Everybody's projecting, everybody's upset about all this stuff in the past with Dad and being unfairly treated, right? Lots of projections, and then projecting onto me as well. Lots of messages to me about all sorts of things. So it's really a reason why I want to share all this is because it's somehow there's this idea that when you awaken, that there's going to be no egos projecting onto you about anything. But what happens for you is you just see that this is a false mind. It's like somebody's in asleep in a dream of being somebody that they're not. And you're seeing it. So there's no reaction to it. And you're seeing a call for love, and you're hearing guidance on what to say to do. So you're living, I'm living a very different life to how I used to be responding. So it's truly helpful to be in this way. And now my brothers and sisters in the last week have just started coming in with so much gratitude of everything that I've done. But it's not about gratitude. I'm not looking for gratitude. I'm just here to be of service, right? That's it. As we read last week, the body is now just given a new purpose. So this is not, these teachings are practical. They're for our lives, right? So heaven is in our mind, and it's a clear and peaceful mind that is connected to the spirit and guided. And it's just a purely peaceful experience. And it knows that our brother is calling for love, and it knows that our brother is asleep, just like we were. So the next night, the second night after he passed, I woke up at about 1:30 in the morning, and Jesus said, get up and have a cup of tea, sit in the lounge room. And as I sat down and I said, what is it? And just got quiet, he said, I need you to let go of your dad now. I need you to let go. You just, that's it, you're done. I've got your, I need you to be doing lots of other things. So I went, because I really didn't want to let go. I kept wanting to do the visualizations. I kept loving the visualizations with Jesus and Dad, and I kept hugging him, and he said, no, you've got to let go of him. And I said, okay. So I just saw my dad in my mind, and I did the Christ blessing on him. And then I said, goodbye, Dad. And he just turned around and walked away. And I just saw the back of him, and he was walking away. And that was it. There was no words. I just felt I've let go. And then when I got back into bed, I closed my eyes. I could see this big bright light and the bedroom was dark and everything was dark, but there was this big circle of light in what I could see. And it just sort of pulsated and he said to me, this is the light that, you go into when you die. He said, I'm just showing you this light that you're going to go eventually through. We're all going to go into that light. And it was like small, but it was like, and then there was just this, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like Dad was there and he said, his spirit is gone. And just that was it. So once that light thing probably lasted for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then all of a sudden it just went back to, like your normal darkness that you see when you close your eyes. And so I went back to sleep. And so the next morning I woke up, it was done. That was my journey, it was finished. And now, I've organised the funeral, the photo tribute, everything. And it's been very, very busy working with brothers and sisters, but I've been overseeing everything and will continue to do. And now I'm executor of his will. So I just want you to know that Jesus doesn't get us to run away from things. He gets us, he will have us doing everything that he needs us to do. And we're going to be around, and we're just going to be using the things of this world, of this dream, to help others. So I hope this little journey, this last part of the journey that I'm sharing has been helpful. As I've shared the little prayer that came through to put on an old painting that I had. And last night I went to type it out on a Word document. It did get changed a little bit, even though I said I'm going to read this out at the funeral. He brought in some changes to it. It's basically, and he brought that quote in for me to give at the funeral about the holiest spot on earth is when an ancient hatred becomes a present love. As he said, that's the message. That's your message. So I'm going to be talking, I'll probably give the biggest speech at the funeral, because I think my sister's going to get up there and she's going to read a letter to her dad. But I don't think anyone else will in our family, because it'll only be a small funeral, because he didn't really know. He was like a hermit, you could say. And so Jesus is he's going to tweak the eulogy today, but it's just so lovely to share with you all and to go through this, and you can see what it looks like practically when you're fully in trust, your mind's healed. It's healed of the belief in sin and guilt and fear. It fears no death because it knows there's no death. So I feel very honoured to share with you today this journey. So in a way, I feel like it might, I don't know whether we should go into the reading because I don't know. What do you think, Shannon?
I don't know. What are you feeling, Cate?
Well, I just feel that the message of what seems to be Dad passing, but nobody goes anywhere, right? Nobody comes here. Nobody is born to die, right? But in the dream lifetimes, in the Christ mind, there's these dream lifetimes. So I feel like maybe this talk is just meant to be about this. And maybe, actually, maybe I'll open it up for questions. That's what I'm feeling prompted to do now. If you have any questions about anything to do with what I've just shared or anything else,